Yeah, we had slated for a scrimmage, really had one slated for Wednesday and was going to back it up to today, but we didn't scrimmage. Got way too many guys out. We had 44 players that didn't practice today. And they hadn't practiced probably for the last 3 or 4 practices. So just didn't think that was wise to scrimmage. Just went with a normal practice. Only got 30 offensive players that were able to practice. So really, really focused on 2 groups. Still got a lot of situational football. Had a chance to work short yardage, red area, some third down. Team moved the field. So got some good work in on special teams. So just something that we're going through. Obviously, as we ramp up the testing, we've had a few more positives, which that's going to happen. The big issue for us has been really the contact tracing, and that's where we've had tons of players. I think, to be exact, to this date, we've had 48 guys that have missed at least 14 days through the quarantine, and 4 of those guys have been quarantined twice. So probably you're talking about 52 guys. In that, 2 of the guys that were in quarantine self-reported. They were around somebody with COVID, and in the testing, they ended up showing up that they had it. But the other 50 guys, we've had 1 out of 50 that has eventually tested positive for COVID. So just trying to get through the contact tracing and when a guy misses 14 days of practice or 14 days of training, starting over, and it's kind of had a cumulative effect a little bit with a few injuries here and there, nothing severe, but some guys that's had to miss some practice time. So it's definitely been challenging, and we've got to continue to improve as a football team, and just figure out the circumstances and figure out a way to be productive in them.
We'll start with questions. We'll go to David Pascal, followed by David Ubben.
Hey, Jeremy, I was going to ask before you reeled off all those numbers, but if I had to ask, we're kind of at the calendar where you're halfway between the start of preseason camp and the season opener. If I had to ask your biggest concern or concern area, and I mean, obviously these numbers, you never know when they're going to spike, but is there a concern area of your team that you could detect at this point?
Well, we've had very few COVID cases. We didn't start until July. That's the first time we had a COVID case. So we didn't have much experience in the month of June, but with the contact tracing and the numbers as they add up, it's been very tough to prepare a team to be able to play. We get 25 practices. We'll probably end up practicing maybe 20 to 22 times, unless we have something change over the next couple of weeks. So, we're learning as we go.
And as a quick follow, when does South Carolina, would you turn to them next week, or would that be the week after that? When do you start implementing a little practice on them?
Well, we've had to do a little bit along the way. We've got certain positions that we're going to rely on guys that don't have a whole lot of experience. So you don't know when somebody gets hit with a contact tracing and they're in quarantine for 14 days. There may not be physically anything wrong with them, but they may not be able to come out of quarantine to the Wednesday before the South Carolina game. So just trying to, give the guys a little bit of the game plan, because we're approaching it one game at a time. That's the game we're focused on. So we've really kind of already started a little bit.
David?
Jeremy, yesterday the Big 12 announced their plans. They have a minimum thresholds for games to still be complete. I think they agreed on 53 total players. You have to have a minimum of 7 offensive linemen, 4 interior defensive linemen, and 1 quarterback. Do you have any sense of what you would like to see for the SEC to have a minimum threshold, and what you would be setting up?
I don't know exactly what that would be. To me, it's first of all the safety of the kids, right? When you start reducing the numbers and you start getting the workload that comes in preparation, these guys are not professionals. They need to work on fundamentals, the details. They need to learn how to play because you got guys that maybe have been in the program for 4 years, and you got guys that's just got here. So when you start lining them up beside each other and a guy goes the wrong way, that's when you get guys hurt. So, we've really tried to take advantage of our walkthroughs to teach the guys so we can eliminate mental errors. But, at some point you got to be able to block, you got to be able to tackle, you got to be able to secure the football, you got to be able to create turnovers. That's really what football is.
We'll go to Blake Topmeyer, followed by Gustavo.
Yeah, Jeremy, of the 44 guys that didn't practice today, do you know how many of those actually have tested positive versus how many are in there because of quarantine rules?
The total number?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, all those guys are not COVID related. Some of those guys are, whether it's soft tissue injury or, Austin Pope, he's got his back there. We done surgery on Tamarian McDonald. So there's Laneith Whitehead's a guy that still's recovering from his surgery. So I don't know the exact number, but as far as COVID related, but it's I think it's close to 27, 28 when you talk about quarantine people also.
But I'm more meant active cases of COVID right now. Do you know how many active cases you have on your team right now?
I think it's 7 or 8, Blake.
Okay. Thank you.
Gustavo.
Pruitt, I'm coming here from Neyland Stadium. You were just there, of course, vol walk, all the stuff that we're having today shows like a normal season. Why don't you remind when you're in Neyland Stadium saying there was supposed to be a game today, but you guys still gonna play, with your players? How was the mentality of, there's still gonna be games even though it's supposed to be a game today?
Well, Gustavo, I'm really happy we didn't play today. We'd played today, we'd had a hard time beating anybody. So I guess that might be a blessing in itself.
And how much do you miss, the fall walk, being with fans? You walked to the stadium, to the, the facility, and, you remember the good times last year. Do you miss the fans? How much you miss, being with the fans?
Yeah, absolutely. The Southeastern Conference, the pageantry that goes with the games, the fans, the competitiveness in each game, even going on the road is a whole lot of fun, So absolutely, it's something that, I love to experience. I love to be a part of. I'm thankful that I get a chance to be a part of it. But yeah, it's we're not doing it right now, and there's lots of things that are not normal right now, and we're all learning to adapt and figure out a better way.
We'll go to Trey Wallace, followed by Brent Hubbs.
Jeremy, can you talk about at least the quarterbacks, if what you saw out of them today? I know you're not getting a lot of work if you don't have an offensive line or whatnot to protect for the quarterbacks, but just their progression, especially we spoke with Jared Garantano yesterday, and he talked about how much confidence he has now in the playbook, and he's able to see the field a lot better. So if you could maybe talk about them just for a little bit.
Well, it's frustrating when you can only practice with 2 groups because, we have 4 quarterbacks. So that means 2 guys are not getting the reps that they need to be getting, and it's hard to develop as a football player without practicing. So that's frustrating, trying to share the reps in there. But, we've got a plan, and we've continued to work that plan. And, really probably, the last 3 practices, Brian Maurer has not done much. He's had a little bit of a hamstring issue. So the other 3 guys have taken the majority of the reps, with Jarrett taking the most, obviously. But those guys continue to improve. It's a challenging deal when you talk about the makeup of the offensive line and then wide receivers. we've already got a young group out there. And when you throw in guys that possibly have to miss a day or two here or there, just the timing of routes, understanding having bust out there. So something that we've continued to work hard to improve.
I had a follow-up real quick. With the new testing protocols that are coming out with the SEC, and I know the problem that you ran into with players being out today, do you think that'll actually end up helping you getting the results back a lot quicker in a sense, and then trying to figure out how you're going to go about a game plan for a football weekend?
Well, I think the testing protocol is the same for everybody.
Right.
The thing to me that probably is not consistent, and it's not consistent in our state, obviously, or nationally, is the contact tracing. It's all based off of each individual county, probably how many cases you have. They're probably a little more stricter. And hey, I'm not a doctor. We just follow the CDC guidelines, right? I'm just giving you the information. So, is Knox County the same as Davidson County? They're playing high school football here, but they're not there. They're not in Shelby County. So, when you start talking about the different states of, South Carolina, Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Florida, Georgia, it's probably different in each one of the university's locations.
Brent?
Coach, how would you assess kind of the mentality or the mental state of your team and you guys as a program, given everything you're going through? Fall's supposed to be a creature of habit type time. Everybody's in a set routine. The routines are changing seemingly daily. I know everybody's dealing with it, but how do you think your team's adapting to that, and how challenging is it with the uncertainty day to day?
I've really been excited about our offensive unit because today we had 31 offensive players that didn't practice. And these guys continue to play together. They play with an attitude. I've been excited about them. Defensively has been, to me, very disappointing, especially up front. Just lack of physicality to finish. So, it's something we definitely have to prove on over the next 3 weeks.
We'll go to Gentry Estes, followed by Wes Rucker.
Yeah, Jeremy, kind of following up on Brent's question there, that the profession you're in, it's so organized and it's so challenging anyway. How much more difficult is your job every day now going through all this? And do you feel like in terms of preparing a team for the start of a season, this isn't like anything you've probably ever gone through before, I have to imagine?
No, I'm sure it's like that with everybody in the world with their jobs now. The circumstances of obviously they're different. We're going through a pandemic, and there's nothing to I guess kind of study the history of this. It's all new, and the information changes daily. So the circumstances around us change daily, and we adapt and figure out the best way to help prepare our guys and give them a chance to be the best football players they can possibly be.
Wes?
Jeremy, when you're talking about trying to get these guys, with the contact tracing, getting them where they can be.
Can y'all hold on 1 second? I need to shut my door. I apologize. Okay, go ahead.
Jeremy, when you're talking about, the contact tracing and where these guys can go and can't go, how difficult is it logistically to figure out, to get these guys to understand, what they can do, what they can't do? How much of a challenge is that to get them in safe situations, I guess?
Well, I think our guys are trying to do the right thing. They're aware of it. It's if somebody that you live with gets it, you're in quarantine. In our county, it's the way it is, and it might be like that everywhere. I don't know, so we've had some of that. But I don't think it's something to where, our players are not being responsible. I definitely don't think that. I mean, my kids go to school. All right, my 3 and 5-year-old go to school, and we put masks on every day. And when I come home, it's hard not to be around them. My mom and dad came this weekend to see their grandkids, right? My dad's a high school football coach. And I got lots of nieces and nephews that go to their house, so we try to be as safe as we possibly can, but there's no guarantees, so everybody's just learning as we go. We're doing the best that we possibly can.
Last question, we'll go to Patrick Brown.
Jeremy, you mentioned Laneith Whitehead. Where is he at in his recovery? I know he had the foot injury last fall. What do you expect to get from him this season, if anything, and kind of how is he coming along with his health?
Yeah, he had a significant injury, and we knew that when we signed him. Laneith has really progressed very well with his rehab. He's not practicing as far as full speed reps. He's doing individual and things like that. But hopefully, in 3 to 4 weeks, he'll be at a point to where he can start taking full speed reps. And if he's able to do that, maybe in the last half of the year, he might get a chance to play a little bit. But again, he's right on schedule with where he's supposed to be. So and he's working hard to get there.
All right. Thank y'all very much. Y'all have a good weekend.
Guys, be safe. See ya.